Good day. We're discussing about assessment, learning resources, instructional accommodation, types of assessment. So our group will more discuss about assessment. So before we proceed, let me introduce our group. And firstly, I'm Christopher Mingasca, and I'm with Miss Masangkay and Miss Magayon. And before we completely start, let me slightly explain what assessment is. Uh, as parang educator, assessment is a tool to know if your student really learning from your instruction that you give. No? So we will more discuss about that later on. Uh, so let's proceed to the next slide. So the content of our report is types of assessment. So firstly, observation checklist that we will discuss by Miss Magayon. And the next one is anecdotal report that we will be discussed by Miss Pasangkay. And lastly, the portfolio assessment we will discuss from me. So let's proceed to observation checklist that we will tackle by Miss Magayon. So good day, Christopher Mingasca, and I will be discussing about portfolio assessment. So let's know more on what is portfolio mean. A portfolio is a cumulative ongoing collection of entries that are selected and commented by the student, the teacher, or peers to assess the student's progress and development of the competence. So, according to Simon and Forget Gerox, portfolio is one of the collection of activities that assess students' progress, development skills. Now, um, and I'm the living testimony na tama yun. Tama sila. Because I once naging high school student at laging gumagawa ng portfolio tuwing, tuwing end of the grading. So, ayun pala yung main reason yun. Assess my progress as a student and talagang nakita ko natututo ako sa subject na yun. Next one. According to Paul and Mayer, 1991, they define the portfolio as a purposeful collection of student work that exhibit students' effort, progress, achievement, in one or more areas. So, meron dito na naman yung word na collection. No? Portfolio is a collection or gallery ng activities natin. No? Ayun pala yun. And the next definition is from Windsor and Ellison, 1995. Portfolio is a fusion of process and product. If it is the process of reflection, selection, rationalization, evaluation, together the product of those processes. So, tama na naman, di ba? Yung pag gumagawa tayo ng portfolio, doon natin na-rationalize yung mga knowledge na natutunan natin and na-evaluate natin yung sarili natin kung talagang natuto tayo as a student. And ganoon din si teacher, di ba? Doon niya rin pinoproseso, parang sinasummarize niya yung mga topic niya and yung mga activities na pinagawa niyo sa isang student. And doon niya natatrack kung talagang natututo sa estudyante. Kaya pala, yung portfolio is a fusion of process and product. Tama, tama. And the last one, definition from Collins, he, he defined the portfolio as a container of collected evidence with a purpose. Evidence is documentation that can be used one person or group of persons to infer another person's knowledge, skill, and or disposition. So, um, sa lahat ng the definition na binigay nila, andun yung word na collection, collected, and evidence, di ba? And purpose. So, kung i-rationalize natin yung mga word na yun, ang portfolio ay isang gallery na activities or mga ginagawa natin sa isang estudyante. And then, in the end, doon natin i-rationalize lahat ng pinagawa natin sa isang estudyante and doon natin natatrack kung natututo ba sila or na-acquire ba nila yung instruction na binigay natin during the teaching. So, that that is that is the importance of the portfolio. So, let's proceed to the portfolio assessment. Kung ano ba yung before that, meron pala two types of portfolio muna. There's a two type of uh, two main types of portfolio. So, the first one is showcase portfolio, di ba? Ba't pa siya tinawag na showcase portfolio? Because students select and submit their best work. The showcase portfolio emphasize the product of learning. So, dito, kaya sa showcase portfolio, dito pinapakita ng mga estudyante yung kumbaga pinaka-best nila na nagawa. No? Dito nila pinapakita yung mga talagang natutunan nila. Kaya showcase portfolio, showcase yung um, learning ng isang estudyante. Doon nila na-emphasize na, ganito magaling ako sa math, di ba? Pag quiz sa math, doon nila pinapakita na lagi matataas yung grade siya sa math. And doon niya na-emphasize na talagang natuto siya sa mathematics sa subject. Di ba? So, the next one is developmental portfolios. Ba't siya tinawag na developmental? Because the students select and submit pieces of work that can show evidence of growth or changes. Over time, the growth portfolio emphasizes the process of learning. So, unlike sa showcase portfolio, developmental portfolio is ini-include nila lahat ng activities. Kahit bagsak ka, kahit mababang grades, nilalagay nila doon kasi para nakita nila time by time kung tumataas ba yun, di ba? Una, mababa yung quiz 1 nila, mababa lang yung grades, di ba? Kumbaga, mga 3 out of 10 lang, ganun. Pero nilalagay pa nila sa portfolio, unlike sa showcase na matataas lang nila nilalagay nila, di ba? And dito sa developmental, dun talaga nila natatrack yung evidence ng growth ng isang estudyante, di ba? So, yun, nag-process yung learning, di ba? Kung talagang evident yung process of learning dun sa developmental. So, yun lang, di ba? Yung pinagkaiba nilang developmental showcase. Kaya tinawag ng developmental kasi nakita ko nag-develop yung estudyante. And let's proceed to the next slide. So, what is the characteristic of portfolio assessment? So, ano nga ba yung portfolio assessment and what the characteristic? First, clearly define purpose and learning targets. So, ayun nga. Kanina, di ba, na-discuss nila Simon and Frigate yung mga salitang purpose, di ba? And that is the characteristic of portfolio assessment. Na talagang kailangan natin alamin kung ano yung purpose and kung ano yung dapat matutunan ng isang estudyante. No? And the next one is systematic and organized collection of student products. No? Hindi lang yung basta-bastang portfolio na ilalagay mo lang lahat. Dapat systematic, gaya ng nasa developmental portfolio, di ba? Nilalagay nila kung para matrack natin kung nagtututo ba yung estudyante or na-acquire nila yung instruction na binibigay mo. Dapat systematic siya and organized collection. Di ba? Dapat organized. And the next one is pre-established guidelines for what will be included. So, bago mo pa pagawa yan, dapat binigay mo na yung guidelines ng portfolio mo, di ba? Dapat before the grading start, dapat before the same start, that binibigay mo na yung guidelines na ito may portfolio tayo and huwag mo itatapon yung mga activities or quizzes mo kasi dapat i-include sa portfolio natin in the end of the grading, di ba? So, the next one is student selection of some works that will be included. So, kaya nga, dapat kung ikaw isang instructor, isang educator na nag-acquire ng portfolio para ma-assess yung isang estudyante, kailangan ini-include mo na, ay sinasabi mo na sa kanila, ini-inform mo na sila na ito dapat yung mga ilalagay natin, yung mga quizzes natin, activities, ilalagay natin sa portfolio. But para by the end of the grading, kasi nyo siya sa akin, nakita ako nag-develop pa yung growth nyo as a student or tututo talaga kayo sa akin. The next one is student self-perfection and self-evaluation. So, one of the purpose din ng isang portfolio is, di ba, pag pinapagawa mo sila niyan, ng portfolio, habang ginagawa nila yan, and kino-compile nila yung mga activities nila, nag-aaroon sila ng self-reflection and self-evaluation. Kagaya nga nasabi ko kanina, as a student, nagdating gumawa ng mga ganito. Hanggang ngayon, is na-evaluate ko yung sarili ko kung natututo ba talaga ako. Ay, ito mababa yung quiz ko dito. Ito tumaas-taas ako. Ay, ito, okay na naka-perfect na ako. Parang ganun yung purpose niya. And hindi parang ganun talaga yung purpose ng isang portfolio. So, the next one is progress documented in specific product and or evaluation. na-evaluate natin yung sarili natin, na-evaluate din tayo ni teacher. And nakita pa natin yung mga documents na talagang produkto ng learning natin or ng tinuro ng teacher. So the last one characteristic is portfolio conferences between students and teachers. And no, pagkatapos mo i-submit yung portfolio mo or pagkatapos i-submit ng estudyante yung portfolio niya, as a teacher dapat kinakausap natin siya and binibigyan natin feedback. Ganon din naman as a student na dapat nag-feedback din tayo. That's the characteristic of portfolio assessment. So let's proceed. What is the purpose pala? So kagaya nga ng sinabi sa characteristic, dapat may purpose and systematic yung portfolio. And the first purpose is based on specific learning targets. Ganun din, sinabi kanina, kailangan based tayo sa specific na kailangan nilang matutunan, di ba? Siguro, sabihin mo as a student, before mag-start yung grading or year, dapat may target ka na dapat ito matutunan nila by the end of the grading. And by the help of portfolio, malalaman mo yan, di ba? Malalaman mo yan kung natututo talaga sila. The next one is ideal for processing product, skill, and reasoning target uses. So, kagaya nga ng sabi ko, di ba? Mas madali natin tong ma-assess yung student natin by the end of the grading because andun yung mga product na-compile. And then, kung yung skill nila, halimbawa sa mga talagang gumagaling na sila mag-plus, mag-minus, and before ka magturo sa kanila, hindi sila ganun magaling. And after that, diba, nakita mo naman na nakita mo yung product ng learning nila. Yun na yun. Tututo sila, di ba? Na-assess natin yung isang estudyante by the means of that. Showcase portfolio to illustrate what students are capable of doing. No? Yun nga, di ba? So, there's a two type of portfolio, di ba? Showcase and development. Dun sa showcase, doon nila pinapakita yung pinakamaganda at pinakamataas nilang gawa, di ba? Pinapulido nilang gawa. And makikita mo dito kung gaano sila, kung ano yung capacity nila kayang gawin. Minsan, lumalagpas sila sa standard mo, di ba? Sobrang galing nila. And nakikita mo yun sa portfolio nila. Ay, grabe estudyante na to, talagang yung standard ko nararasan. Dun yung pinapakita sa showcase portfolio. And then the next one is evaluation ng portfolio. Standardization of what to include, no? Yung evaluation ng portfolio, dun mo pinapakita kung ano yung nag-set ka ng standard, di ba? Sa isang estudyante, di ba? As an educator, di ba? The next purpose is for parents, what will make sense to parents, di ba? Para sa mga magulang, kung ano yung talaga yung, di ba? Makatulong din ko sa magulang, no? Para makita nila, ito pala yung natututunan ng mga anak ko, di ba? Na nakikita rin nila, na-assess din nila, di ba? If the parent is talagang attentive sa isang anak na estudyante. And yun, that's a few purpose ng isang portfolio, diba? The next slide is all about how to use portfolio in assessment, diba? Paano ba natin ma-assess yung estudyante natin, diba? Using these portfolios. And the first one is determine the purpose of the portfolio. Kanina pa sinasabi yan, diba? Portfolio have a purpose, diba? May purpose talaga siya. And ano ba yung purpose niya? Decide how the result of portfolio evaluation will be used to inform the program. And nasa iyo yan kung paano mo gagamitin yung portfolio to assess the student. Kagaya ko, di ba? Ayun, kung ikaw isang educator na before mag-start yung grading, ini-inform ng estudyante, ganito, mag-quiz ka. May tuwing quiz natin, huwag niyong i-atapon yan kasi kahit bagsak kayo, itatapon kasi ilalagay natin sa portfolio natin yan. Para by the end of the grading, is nakita natin kung talagang natututo kayo, di ba? Kung nag-assess kayo, okay lang kung magsa kayo sa una, di ba? Para ma-track natin yung progress mo as a student. The second one is identify the learning outcomes the portfolio will address, no? So ano ba yung dapat i-address ng portfolio na yun, di ba? Ano yung dapat niyang patunayan, di ba? Ay, pinapakita pala kung ano yung pinapakita niya. Number 3, decide what students will include in their portfolio. No? Ayun nga, ikaw pa rin as a educator, ikaw pa rin magde-decide kung ano yung lalagay nila. Ano? Mga quizzes, no? Pwede rin yung mga notes, di ba? Nag-take notes mo sila, yung mga grades nila, mga test nila, mga examination, di ba? Mga periodical. And that's the critical ano rin siya, critical part din ng portfolio, di ba? Decide kung ano talaga ilalagay, kung ano yung ingredients. And the next one is identify or develop the scoring criteria to judge quality of the portfolio. Diba? Minsan, talagang in the end of the grading, talagang hindi lang ganun basta-basta portfolio na compile yung mga meron din syempre na parang rubrics kang gagawin. No? Ganito portfolio, hindi lang basta-basta pa. Kailangan systematic siya and organized na first grading, yung mga critics natin na ginagawa na compile. Kailangan hindi lang siya yung ramble, di ba? Kailangan meron kang rubric sa paggawa ng portfolio to assess the student kung talagang nakikinig sila sa instruction mo. Diba? And number 5, establish standards of performance and examples. Kailangan meron kang mag-set ka ng standard, di ba? Para hindi lang basta-basta yung estudyante na gumawa para baring gawa. Di ba? Minsan may mga ganun. Para bara lang yung gawa eh. Hindi yung basta may mapasa lang ganun, no? And the last one is create student instruction that specify how student collect, select, reflect, format, and submit. No? Dito mo nakita kung estudyante mo talagang attentive na nakikinig sa instruction mo kasi. And talagang nag-self-reflect sila sa paggawa ng isang portfolio. And we will proceed to the next slide. Student self-assessment. And yun, gaya ng sabi ko kanina, pag nagpapagawa ng portfolio and magpapagawa ka ng portfolio assessment dito, malalaman mo yung isang estudyante mo is nag-reflect sa mga natutunan niya, di ba? So firstly, reflective and self-assessment activities need to be taught. So ayun nga, kailangan mong ituro sa kanila na kailangan nilang mag-reflect din, no? Self-reflect minsan-minsan kung ano natutunan nila, di ba? Yung mga pag-review, di ba? Self-review, yun, mag-reflect din sa kanila, kung ano yung natutunan nila. And some guide question for student, can you tell me what you did? What did you like best about this? So, kailangan may mga feedback question ka rin, no? Para malaman mo kung talagang yung student mo is talagang interesado sa learning, di ba? Sa mga tinuturo. And self-reflective question then that bibigay ka. What did you learn from writing this piece? What would you have differently if you had more time? What are your greatest strength and weakness in this sample? What would you differently if you did this over? So, mga ganong tanong para self-reflect sila, mapaisip din sila, ay, ganito, ganyan. Kailangan ko palang galingan next time na mag-quiz kami kasi pagsak ako pala sa isang quiz na to. No? So, ayun yung importance ng portfolio assessment. No? Parang nakapag-self-reflect din yung isang estudyante sa learning nila. So, let's proceed to the next topic. So, method, paano ba natin mag-gradean yung isang estudyante sa isang portfolio assessment? So, first, assessment should measure what is really important in the curriculum. No? Kailangan pasok sa curriculum yung mga pinagtuturo mo, di ba? Pinagtuturo natin. And according talaga sa syllabus na nandun siya sa curriculum. And doon natin na-measure kung ano talaga yung specific learning na sinasabi kanina. No? Kailangan nagsiset ka ng specific learning and specific topic na dapat ilang matutunan. So next is assessment should look more like the instructional activities than like tests. No? Assessment should look more instructional activities than like tests. Hindi yung assessment, dito natin ma-measure ba mga test, ganun. Hindi natin ma-measure doon kasi minsan may mga type of test na subjective, objective, no? Meron mga estudyante magaling sa written, may mga estudyante magaling sa oral, mga ganun. Di ba? Kailangan more instructional activity siya, yung nagbibigay ka ng instruction, direction, na naintindihan nila. And doon mo makita kung natututo ba sila o na-adapt nila yung learning na sinasabi mo. Diba? And the last one is educational assessment should approximate the learning task of interest so that when student practice assessment, some useful learning take place. No? The educational assessment should ayun nga, di ba, tuwing magbibigay ka ng activities, kailangan merong educational pa rin siya, hindi lang siya yung papa-activities ka, wala naman palang learning doon, no? Kailangan andun pa rin para may natutunan siya time by time, no? Na nagpapa-activities ka and na-absorb nila yung instruction na binibigay mo. Kambawa, pag magpapa-activities tayo, after ng discussion, no? Ayaw nga pala, ganito pala, ganyan, ganyan. Halimbawa, nagpa-activities ka, pagkatapos mag-discuss ng kanta, di ba, nagpakanta ka, and yun, makikita mo doon kung nakakasabay sila sa kanta, natututo sila sa yun. Ayun yung parang proof na natututo sila through the activities. Next one. So, advantage and disadvantage para sa atin, para sa mga ikaw isang educator, instructor, di ba? Advantage para sa faculty enables to assess a set of complex tasks including interdisciplinary learning and capabilities with example of different types of student work. No? Doon natin na-assess yung mga kung sino yung mga estudyanteng kaya yung mga complicated tasks, di ba? Mga interdisciplinary learning, di ba? Yung mga out of curriculum na disiplina, and yung mga capacity ng mga estudyante natin na doon natin nakikita. And the disadvantage para sa faculty, I'm required to prepare the portfolio assignment and assist student as they prepare them, logistic or challenging. Diba? Ayun nga lang yung preparation and time, ipalaban, disadvantage. Kasi medyo mahaba-habang proseso yun. Diba? From throughout the grading or throughout the sem. Kailangan nilang talagang nag-save sila, nag-collect sila ng mga activities na pinapagawa mo. And that time consuming talaga siya. Yung disadvantage. And the next one is advantage para sa faculty again is help faculty identify curriculum gaps of lack of alignment with outcomes. No? Dito doon nakita yung yung lack ng curriculum kung ano ba dapat dadagdag. No? Kaya maganda rin talaga yung portfolio assessment, doon natin nakita yung pagkukulang ng isang educator instructor sa curriculum. Diba? Disadvantage naman, student must retain and compile their own work, usually outside of class. Motivating students to take it seriously may be difficult. No? So, ayun nga, di ba, kahit tapos na yung academic hours, yung estudyante na-required pa rin siya talagang gumawa ng portfolio na during pagkatapos ng academic hours. And mahirap-hirap yun, di ba? Hindi naman siya ganun kahirap, pero minsan nakakalimutan ng mga estudyante yun, yung mag-implement sa portfolio, di ba? And the next one is advantage pa rin para faculty. Promotes faculty discussion and student learning curriculum, pedagogy, and student support service. Dito natin nakita yung mga assess natin yung mga student natin, no? Kung sino yung kung saan siya mahina, kung saan siya, ano yung mga strength niya, kung saan siya matalino, ganyan, di ba? And doon natin masasuportahan yung isang estudyante, di ba? Doon natin nakita, kailangan ko siyang mas focus. So, kasi medyo tagilid yung student na to, hindi siya magaling sa academics. Kailangan kong mas pag-focusan yung estudyante na to, di ba? Mga ganun situation. And the disadvantage is, transfer student may have difficult meeting program portfolio requirements. Yun nga, nag-aaral ng disadvantage para din sa mga transfer student para sa mga bagong lipat. Ay, wala akong activities niyan, ma'am, kasi hindi po naabutan. Mga ganun disadvantage yung mga nangyayari doon sa portfolio assessment para sa mga transfers. And the next one is advantage pa rin, no? Sa advantage naman, encourages student reflection on their learning. Students may come to understand what they have and have not learned. Provide students with documentation for job application or application to graduate school. So, dalawang advantages na yun dito. So, una is, ayun nga, kanina pa natin sinasabi, kung ano talaga yung purpose ng portfolio is to, para mapag-self-reflect yung student habang ginagawa nila ito yung portfolio nila. Mapag-self-reflect sila kung ano ba yung, kung saan ba sila magaling, kung saan ano yung kalakasan nila, and kung ano yung mga hindi pa nila dapat nilang matutunan at hindi pa nila natutunan, di ba? So, the next advantage, one of the important advantage of this portfolio is yan, student documentation for job. And then pag mag-apply ka na, pag mag-apply ka ng college, di ba? Mag-apply ka ng trabaho, nakita mo sa portfolio mo, nandun pa rin yung mga activities mo. And that would be helpful for you, di ba? Kasi andun yung mga document mo pagka-graduate mo ng school. And the disadvantage, storage demands can overwhelm. No? Minsan, talagang yung portfolio mo punong-puno na. Talagang gagastos ka talaga ng creation, mga folders, di ba? Kaya, na-required na yung e-portfolios. Uso na yun ngayon. Kung may mga email, may mga e-portfolios. So, ayun yung advantage para sa para sa instructor, di ba? And the next one, advantage, sabi na kanina pala. And students' advantages in this. Ito naman, para sa mga student, ano yung mga advantages? So, student advantages. So, students are actively involved in self-evaluation and self-reflection. Dahil nga yung ito talaga yung pinaka-purpose ng portfolio. No? Para mag-self-reflect and self-evaluate yung isang estudyante. No? Focus on self-improvement rather than comparison with others. No? Dito, mas nakikita ng estudyante na, ay, dito pala ako dapat mag-focus sa isang, di ba? Hindi niya na nakita yung iba eh. Hindi mo na pwedeng i-compare yung iba mo kasi nakita mo na kung saan ka nagkulang at saan ka magaling. Students become more engaged in learning because both instruction and assessment shift from teacher control to mix of internal and external. Mas parang na-engage sila sa'yo, di ba? Mas naipag-interact sila sa'yo pag gantong portfolio na, di ba? Pasanang portfolio. Mas naintindihan nila yung mga instruction na binigay mo and how you assess them, kung ano yung mga feedback mo sa kanila pagkatapos mo makita yung portfolio. The next one is the student disadvantages. Siyempre kung ma-advantage, meron din. So, scoring difficulties will lead to low reliability. Parang ito rin psychological din to. Kung nakita nilang mabababa yung grades nila, di ba? Talagang, ay, mahina ako sa ganito, di ba? Mahina ako sa ganitong subject. Parang maglo-low yung self-esteem nila, di ba? And then, sampling of student products may lead to weak generalization. So, ayun nga, students, pag pinapakita yung mga, mga isang product ng estudyante na kung ano yung learning niya, parang yung realization niya sa isang subject is hindi ganun katibay, di ba? So, the next advantages is parents find the portfolio difficult to understand. No? Dito naman yung mga magulang, mahirap, hindi nila masyadong maintindihan yung portfolio dito. Minsan kasi may mga pinapagawa ng mga essay na hindi nila nasusundan. Hindi nila masyadong maintindihan. Kaya dapat andiyan ka para explain sa magulang yung assessment mo sa isang estudyante. So yun lang, and salamat sa tinig, din lang po. And I hope na naka-explain ko ng maayos yung topic ko. And that's all. God bless.
So good day everyone, I'm Ms. Magayon. I will be reporting assessment and observation checklist. So what is assessment? Assessment involves the use of empirical data on student learning to refine programs and improve student learning. Assessing academic program in higher education by Allen, 2004. So, assessment is the process of gathering and discussing information from multiple and diverse sources in order to develop a deep understanding of what students know, understand, can do, with their knowledge as a result of their educational experience. The process culminates with assessment results are used to improve subsequent learning. So, learner-centered assess on college campuses, shifting the focus from teaching to learning by Yuba and PRID 2000. So, it's about gathering and discussing information from multiple and diverse sources to develop deep understanding of what students know and students can do their knowledge as a result of their educational experience. The process culminates when assessment results are used to improve subsequent learning nga. So, assessment is a systematic basis for making inference about the learning and development of students. Assessing student learning and development, a guide to principles, goals, and methods of determine college outcomes by Erwin, 1991. So, it's a process of defining, selecting, and designing, collecting, analysis, and interpreting, and use information to increase student learning and development. So, assessment is a systematic collection, review, and use of information about educational and program undertaken from the purpose of improving student learning development. So, we have 4 fundamental components of assessment, which is formulate statement of intended learning outcomes. Second, develop or select assessment measure. Third, create experience leading to outcomes. And fourth is discussing and use assessment result to improve learning. So, first, formulating statement of intended learning outcomes. Statement describing intention about what students should know, understand, and be able to do with their knowledge when they graduate. So, in formulating statement and intended learning outcomes is dito napapasok yung mga kakayanan or ano ba yung mga kakayanan nila or mga kaalaman nila when sila is nakagraduate na. Parang dito napapasok yung mga learning outcomes nila. So, second naman is developing or selecting assessment measure, designing or selecting data gathering measure to assess whether or not or intended learning outcomes have been achieved. So, in this developing or selecting assessment measure, we have 2 assessment, which is direct assessment and indirect assessment. Indirect assessment, projects, products, paper, thesis, exhibition, performance, case study, clinical evaluation, portfolios, interviews, and oral exam. So, in direct assessment, which a student to demonstrate what they know or can do with their knowledge. In indirect assessment naman which is self-report measure such as survey. So, in which responded share their perception about that what graduates know or can do with their knowledge. So, number 3 is creating experience leading to outcomes. So, in this is ensuring the student have experience both in and outside their courses that help them achieve the intended learning outcome. So, kailangan dito is si student is ma-experience niya pa rin yung both in and outside their courses para mas ma-achieve nila yung intended learning outcomes nila. And number 4 is discussing using assessment result to improve teaching and learning. So, using the result to improve individual student performance. So, yung result na yun is yung gagamitin yun para mas mapakita yung kung nag-improve ba yung bawat individual student sa kanilang mga performance. So, next is the assessment cycle. So what is assessment cycle? We have 4 assessment cycles, which is plan, do, check, and act. So what is plan? Plan is what do I want to student to learn. So ano ba talaga ang plano mo para may matutunan yung estudyante mo? Or ano yung plano mo para may matutunan nga yung mga estudyante mo? This stage naman is includes the first fundamental component of assessment. So, formulating statement of indeed learning outcomes. So, and next naman is do. So, do is how do I teach effectively? So, this stage includes the second and third fundamental components, developing or selecting assessment measure and creating experience to leading outcomes. So, the third naman is check. Are my outcomes being met? So, this stage naman is involves evaluation of assessment data, part of 4 components. So, number 4 naman is yung act. So, act. How do I use what I learned? So, this stage naman is involves reinforcing successful practice to making revision to enhance student learning. So, this part of 4 component. So, next is observation checklist. So, what is observation checklist? Observation checklist is a set of questions that evaluate the performance and behavior of teachers and students in a classroom setting. So, observation checklist assists on an observer to identify skill gaps and problem areas to further improve teaching strategy and classroom setting and student learning development. So, observing student has they solve problems, model skills to other, think aloud during a sequence or activities or interact with peers in different learning situation, provide insight in the student learning and growth. So this observation checklist is important to know because we will know if the student have learned in class and teacher give there some ideas that student will easily understand, and also observation checklist we will know if teaching skills of the teacher is effectively used in the class. So, observation may be informal or highly structured and incidental or scheduled over different periods of times on learning context. So, observation checklist written is a yes or no format can be used to assist observing student performance relative to specific criteria. They may be direct toward observation of an individual group. So, observation checklist will be help the observer to find out what is the problem and to solve or how to develop their classroom setting. So, observation checklist is the teacher find out under the what condition success is the most likely what individual student do. They encounter difficulty, how interaction with others affects their learning and concentration, and what student need to learn. Next. So, observation checklist allow teacher record information and avoid how student perform in relation of specific outcome from the program of study. So, these tools can also include a space for brief comments, which is provide additional information not captured in checklist. So, before you use an observation checklist, ensure student understand what information will be used, and ensure checklists are dated to provide record of observation over a period of time. So we have tips for using observation checklist. So first is determine specific outcomes to observe and assess. So, to know what will be changed or who student most need to develop, kailangan natin talaga ma-determine yung specific outcomes. So, second is decide what to look for. Write down criteria and evidence that indicates the student demonstrating the outcome. So, write down an evidence to know if the student have learned in class. So, number 3 naman, ensure student know and understand what criteria are. So, kailangan talaga is alam ni student kung ano ba yung mga criteria para mas madali nila maintindihan yung lesson. Katulad na lang ng, for example, is in the group report, you need to write down kung ano ba yung mga criteria na gusto mong makuha once sila is nagre-report para mas maibigay nila yon sa'yo. Kasi kung hindi nila alam yung criteria, is hindi nila maibibigay yung criteria na gusto mo at hindi mo yung goal mo. Kaya importante yung may criteria. So, number 4 is target your observation by selecting 4 or 5 students per class and 1 or 2 specific outcome to observe. So, for example nito is yung activity. May student na 2 mataas na grade and may 2 student naman na hindi mataas yung grade. So, pag compare mo sila, pag-obserbahin mo kung bakit. And then, pag na-observe mo yon, hanapin mo yung specific outcomes para mas maano mo yung ano ba ang pagkukulang at ano pa yung kailangan pa ma-develop. So, number 5 is develop a data gathering system such as clipboard for anecdotal notes, a checklist, or rubric, or a video or audio recorder. So, eto familiar naman tayo sa rubric dahil may isang prop tayo na binibigyan tayo ng mga guidelines like rubric. So, this is an example of criteria. So, introduction topics, conclusion reach, and information gather, and summary paragraphs, and grammar and spelling. So, give 4 points in introduction is student properly generates question and or problems around a topic. So, give 3 points naman if the student generates question and or problems. Give 2 points naman if student requires prompts to generate question and or problems. And give 1 point naman in question or problems are teacher generated. So, in conclusion reach naman, ito naman yung example. So, give 4 points if numerous detailed conclusion are reached from the evidence offered, and give 3 points detailed conclusion and are reached from the evidence offered, and give 2 points naman in detailed conclusion are reached from the evidence offered, and give 1 point naman a conclusion is made from the evidence offered. So, pag gawa nyo na to is ito total nyo na siya, then malalaman mo kung ma-achieve ba na-achieve ba ng criteria mo yung mga learning outcomes nila. So, next is collecting observation over a number of classes during a reporting period and look for the pattern performance. So, next naman is date all observation. This is most important. Why? Because once a student is nag-ask kay teacher na why they are getting low grades, so you have evidence na mapapakita kay student mo na in this date you don't participant well. So, you have evidence na mapapakita sa kanila then para mas maintindihan pa nila na mas kailangan nga nila mag-develop kasi ino-obserbahan mo sila. And kailangan talaga nila mag-participate sa class kasi nakikita mo talaga yung bawat galaw nila. So, next naman, share observation with student both individually and in a group. Make the observation specific and describe how this demonstrates or promotes thinking and learning. So, observation with student, both eventually in a group. So, para mas ma-describe mo sa kanila and mapaliwanag mo sa kanila kung ano pa yung kailangan mas ma-develop and ano pa yung mga kailangan nilang gawin para mas matutunan nila yung lesson. And mas maganda din para mas ma-explain mo sa kanila ng maayos kung ano yung pagkukulang nila, kung ano ba yung pagkakamali, bakit naging ganun lang yung grade nila. So next naman, use the information gathered from observation to enhance or modify future instruction. So yung mga information na gathered mo is magagamit mo siya para mas ma-enhance mo pa yung sarili mo and yung mga student mo para sa in the future is mas maano mo yung classroom setting, mas mapapaganda mo yung classroom setting mo, yung teaching skills mo, and mas maano mo kung saan ka nagkulang at kailangan mo pang ma-develop. Hindi lang naman si student yung need mag-develop, is si teacher din by observation. So, that's all my report. Thank you po.
Hi, good day everyone. My name is Eliosa. My first topic is learning resources. Learning resources are things that teachers can access to help them do some aspect of their job better as part of the professional development process, either pre-service or in-service. This is important because the quality of teacher has been highlighted as the most important factor in determining the effectiveness of a school system. So, learning resources. These resources can help the can help the teacher improve their skill in teaching. For example, they use books, modules, and information coming from social media as their basis of information in teaching. Di ba, importante ang skill ng teacher because sila yung nagiging basis ng rating ng isang school. Resources might be institution-specific, such as school behavior or inclusion policy documents, assessment procedures, or information for new teachers. This is usually happen in private school kasi more on yung mga bagong teacher, di ba, sa private school sila pumupunta to gain experience. So, ang ginagawa ng private school, they give specific subject na pwede lang ituro ng teacher, na ang gagawin na pwedeng gawin ng basis ng teacher or basis na information sa pagtuturo bago or during the class. So that will be all for the learning resources. The next reporter would be Mr. Okay, thank you. So my next report is about anecdotal report or record. An anecdotal report is an observational strategy utilized every now and again in classroom setting in which the onlooker condenses a solitary formative episode after the occasion has happened. Composed from a memory, the anecdotal record archives the student's development and patterns. It's writing like a short stories. It should have a beginning, middle, and an end. So, anecdotal report. This anecdotal report can help us to know if the children or specific children has a mental health issue or mental health issues such as ADHD, autism. Of course, in anecdotal report, we can know if the children or the specific student is knowledgeable, kung may alam na siya, kung may basis na ba siya dun sa isang specific topic or subject na meron ka. Doon mo malalaman kung ang bata is interested sa mga bagay-bagay na connected sa subject mo. For example, specifically in PE, kung if he or she is interested in sports, music, arts. Anecdotal report, more on siya, observational strategy, kasi nga ino-observe nga natin kung yung bata mayroong kung nag-excel ba siya doon sa isang subject or hindi, kung saan siya interested at saan siya hindi interested. So this is the example of an anecdotal record. So here in the upper, yeah, dito sa taas, makikita niyo yung information ng bata. Okay. Ayan, such as name, age, kung anong oras naganap, anong date naganap, and kung sino yung nag-observe mismo. Then, ito, makikita din natin yung setting, kung saan specifically nangyayari yung event. Ito yung event, anong naganap doon sa bata. Dinidescribe kung paano naging interested yung bata, ano yung sinabi niya, ano niya ginalaw yung boat, paano siya naging interested doon sa specific situation na yon. Tapos ito sa pinakababa, yung end, which is conclusion, dito natin malalaman yung pinaka-summary doon sa nangyari doon sa bata, which is si Rosa. Conclusion, ito babasahin ko. In this anecdote, it seems that Rosa curious about the concept of sink and float. So, parang doon, no, malalaman natin na atong bata na to medyo interested siya sa mga bagong nakakita niya, bagong information na nalalaman niya, more on nag-experiment siya, 'di ba? Parang more on science siguro siya, ganun. Anecdotal record allowed teachers to assess development in physical, social, cognitive, and emotional areas. Kasi nga, di ba doon nga, nag-observe tayo sa, for example, doon sa pinakita kong kwento nitong ni Rosa na interested siya doon sa doon natin malalaman kung ang bata ba is physically fit, marunong ba siya makipag-socialize, kung ano yung capacity ng kaalaman niya, kung siya ba ay may mental health issue or wala. Learn more about a child as individual. Ayun, pwede natin mas makilala yung bata kung may problema rin siya sa family niya or meron na nakaka-apekto dun sa learning capacity or learning skill ng bata. Identify the interest for the group or the individual, remember information, show progress, and share information, assess the curriculum, gather data to drive various decisions, provide information regarding child development over a period of time. So, sa pinakalas, dito rin natin malalaman kung yung, kasi basis natin yung anecdotal, kung ano pa yung nalalaman, kung ano yung basic na knowledge na meron yung bata, and kung nagturo na tayo sa kanila, ginawa natin yung tamang process assessment, then meron na tayong outcome, doon natin malalaman kung yung bata is nag-improve ba doon sa basic knowledge na meron siya noon. Then, provide ongoing records about individual instruction needs. So, capture observation of significant behavior that might otherwise be lost. Provide ongoing documentation of learning that may be shared with student, parents, and teachers. So, ayun. Pwede natin itong ma-share sa parents and students and teacher. Lalo na sa parents, kung kasi paminsan sa sobrang busy din paminsan ng parents, hindi na nila nabibigyan ng attention yung anak nila. So, pwede natin mabigay din to. At saka, pwede din to maging dagdag rating dun sa school system na meron yung school nyo. So, of course, sa teacher, para malaman niya kung ano yung way, pwedeng maging way niya ng pagtuturo para matuto pa lalo yung isang bata. So, that would be all.